So, 2021, it's a big year for Mini. Not only is it 20 years since the first BMW Mini left the production line, it's also 60 years of the Cooper. Now, as a result, the Mini lineup has been refreshed. Now, the Mini lineup is very different to what it was 20 years ago, where you just had that hatchback. We've got Countryman, Clubman, so semi-off-roader, estate car. We've got a 5-door, we've got PHEV powertrains, battery electric powertrains, as well as petrol and diesel. It's a very different car to the one it was 20 years ago, much more diverse to suit lots of different types of buyer. But ultimately, the heart of the brand, the core car, still for many, is the 3-door Mini, the standard original Mini. So that's what we're in now. Effectively, there haven't been that many changes. We'll have a look outside in a minute. You'll see in the footage there's been a new front. It's wider, it's lower, meant to give the car a more aggressive and purposeful stance. At the back there's a ridiculously large splitter, which is, even on this Cooper S model, is very large. Other than that, it's pretty much the same car. Now, as we were saying, the core, the heart of the Mini range is the 3-door. Now, ideally, we'd be driving a Cooper, which many times is often the sweetest in the lineup. It's the one that doesn't try too hard, but they haven't got any Coopers here today. So, next level up, we've got a Cooper S, which is close to being perfect. It doesn't try too hard. It's not like the JCW with loads of power. It's not a jacked up off-roader. There's no electrification to the powertrain. This is just a Mini, basically. Simple 3-door, petrol engine at the front, front-wheel drive. And yes, this one's even got a manual gearbox. Now, it's one of the few cars here that has a manual gearbox. Most of them are automatics. Now, of course, as we said, you know, Minis are many different things to many different people, but after a little drive in this one, this does feel like, as with the Cooper, the sweet spot. So we've got up front 2-litre twin-scroll turbocharged engine, so it's producing the same 175 brake horsepower as before, about 207, 206 pounds-foot of torque, 0 to 60 in this manual, 6.8 seconds, so it's not a slow car. It'll top out at 146 miles an hour. This is still a quick little car. The core of the car's appeal is that up and at them energy, that terrier-like insistence on having fun, and it's pretty good, this car. Now, it's quite modestly tyred, 205 section tyres, and if you start throwing it around in the corners, it's got that Mini eagerness to change direction. There's actually less grip than you'd expect. It starts to move around just a little bit, and the rear axle always wants to get involved, wants to get the car pointing into the corner more aggressively and quickly than most of its rivals. You forget how up on its tiptoes this car can feel. There's some areas which aren't so great. The steering still has quite a weird quality to it. There's kind of a deadness off the straight ahead, so you find yourself making lots of little corrections, but once you've got some lock on, it's really quick rack, and it aids that impression of the car just wanting to dive into a corner. It's quite good fun. And as I say, driven the JCW with the automatic gearbox, it's got more power, but this actually feels quicker because you're having to get involved in the process. It's not an engine that likes to be revved, this 2-litre, and it does make it's quite a nice raughty exhaust note to it. It actually sounds better than the JCW, which sounds a bit synthesized. And because you have to change gear yourself, you're getting involved, you're accessing the performance. It's not just one linear delivery, here it comes. It's great fun, it really is. Apart from that steering, a bit strange, but the rest of it, I think if you're going to have a Mini, I know we're moving towards electrification and manual gearboxes are a thing of the past, but while we can still have them, manual gearbox on a Mini, I think. Now, mechanically, that's pretty much it. There's not been many changes. Same engines as last time. The one big change they've made is they've ditched the adaptive damper option, which was available on, I think, Cooper S and JCW, and they've gone for something called intelligent adaptive dampers, which you think, oh, even more technical, but they're not. They've ditched all the electronics. It's standard on sport models like this one, optional on others, and it's effectively a bit like the Fiesta ST system. So it's a passive damper that's got an extra valve that when you hit a bump, particularly severe bump, you get an increased frequency like that. It opens the valve and it softens off the ride. Is it successful? Well, they say they've made the ride to compensate for the fact that you don't have the adjustable dampers, so you don't have sport, normal and comfort. They've now set the firmness in between the old car's normal and sport, so it's meant to be a bit firmer in normal than before, because this extra valve gives them the comfort over a big bump. To be honest, it's still busy. I mean, these roads are fairly well surfaced and it's moving around a bit, but it's actually pretty good. On some of the smaller B roads we've been on, you are occasionally lifted out of your seat, the thing's bouncing around a bit, but most of the time the dampers do a pretty good job, that extra valve opening and just taking the edge off the worst of the bump. It's at its least effective under power, so if you accelerate hard over a sharp expansion joint or a pothole, there is a noise that will make you wince and maybe even exclaim something rude. A potty mouth phrase might happen because it's genuinely quite jarring. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as before, and that does mean this is quite a likeable little car. There's still no space in the back, but you don't buy a Mini 3-door if you want to carry people in the back. The boot's quite small, but again, if you want a Mini and you want more space, there are other Minis for that. Inside, it's pretty much as before. There's a new, as you'd expect, infotainment screen. So we've got an 8.8-inch infotainment now, touch screen. You can customise it, do all the stuff you expect to do with an infotainment screen. There was lots of talk of smartphone interactivity and usability. So that works really well. There's a new digital instrument pack here, which is from the Mini Electric, which is sort of half a cheat because half of it is TFT, but the rev counter looks like a TFT, but when the sun hits it, you can see there's an analog dial behind a tinted screen. But you know, it works well enough. New steering wheel, nice soft leather. I think they've nicked this from BMW. Anything else? Not really. Like I say, it's much the same as the last one, just a few freshened looks. And you can see why, because Mini has got some big plans. They're going all electric. Their entire range will be electrified by the early 2030s. The last internal combustion engine model will be launched in 2025. So there is an all new Mini coming, but you also get the sense this is kind of a holding pattern, this car. This could be the last of its kind. Even the new internal combustion engine one, I suspect, will have more electrification. This could be the last, for want of a better word, analog Mini, particularly with the manual gearbox, Cooper S or a Cooper. And while it's not as laugh out loud, giggly funny as, say, an original 60s Mini or even the previous generations, there's sort of a grown-up edge to it, the premium interior and all the touchscreen infotainment systems. It's still got a character to it, this car. It still feels like a Mini. You couldn't be driving anything else. There are faster alternatives out there. There are ones that handle better. You know, a Fiesta ST is more fun for less money, but the Mini has its charm. You can see why they're so successful. You can see why, what a brilliant idea it was 20 years ago, when we all sort of ummed and ahed and stroked our chin when BMW launched the original Mini, the original BMW Mini, that wasn't anything like the original. We thought, well, what have they done? They made it big. It doesn't feel like a Mini, and yet 20 years later, here we are. So yeah, 20 years in, and the Mini, with all its different versions, its electrification, its big off-roaders, well, small big off-roaders, its estate cars, its 5 doors, it's kind of as relevant as it ever was. The brand is still strong. People will buy this car who don't care how it drives. But fortunately for people like us who do care, it still drives well enough that if you're in the mood and you find the right road, you will get to your destination with a smile on your face. And you can't ask for more than that, really. This is definitely a sweeter handling package than the faster JCW and the GP. It is definitely a case of less being more with the Mini. As I say, I think Cooper S, that's the sweet spot. And if you can live with the size, go for the 3-door. If you're going to have a Mini, have a proper Mini. I mean, it's not Mini anymore. It's a reasonably large car, but yeah, if you're going to do it properly.